Scared for reals.
Hey, it's Chris O'Neill.
Adam Perry.
Merry Christmas, Adam.
Merry Christmas.
What would Christmas be without a little scariness, horror, disturbing images, right?
Well, that's not Christmas at all, Chris.
Right? So we're going to be talking about Christmas horror films, and we want you to join the discussion. Send us a comment. We're on SoundCloud, YouTube. So, Adam, I'm going to start with you because my picks for Christmas horror are way out there. So, let's start with your fifth pick.
Okay, I'm going to be honest. These are in no particular order. So
okay.
So I'm just going to...
Same here.
Yeah. So I'm just going to... Let's start with the probably the most popular one of my group. Let's start Gremlins. The
Gremlins.
Original.
Yeah, the funny thing is it came out in summer of 1984. But it deals with getting a Christmas present, and what a present it is!
Gizmo,
Howie Mandel.
Yeah.
So we don't want to dissect the plot, dissect the meaning behind the film, but so it takes place at Christmas time, the whole movie. So what made you choose this one other than it's Christmas? It must have had some sort of impact on you when you were watching it as a kid.
Well, I mean, it's just one of those really fun, charming, little creepy, a little bit of everything type movies. I mean, it's got its creepy, scary value to it, but this is also something like I wouldn't mind letting a little kid, not like a little kid, but maybe a 12, 13-year-old.
How about your son? Is your son ready for the Gremlins?
8 years old.
Because I watched it when I was like 7 or 8.
Yeah, he probably is. My stepdaughter, we watched it the other night, and she watched it. She's 10, so
okay,
and she enjoyed it. So yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's produced by the one and only Steven Spielberg.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, Steven Spielberg was on a roll. I mean, he did Temple of Doom, which if that actually came out in around Christmas time and it was during a Christmas setting, that would be a horror movie in itself.
Temple of Doom. Yes.
That's a very horrifying movie. But
yeah,
anyways,
he did a couple other things other than Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
Too. just a few other things.
Just a few, yeah.
Mr. Spielberg there. You might have heard of him.
But yeah, there is a lot of horror aspects because he doesn't follow the rules,
right.
After midnight, and that's when all hell breaks loose, literally.
Yeah, don't feed that's, for those you don't know and just say the line, don't feed it after midnight, don't get it wet.
Yeah.
This is all Gremlins, guys. This is
kind of all of the above happens.
Yeah. And I'm such a sucker for practical effects. And real effects, and so in seeing all the puppetry and all that going on with all the different Gremlins, all of them having their own personality.
All of them. Yeah,
it's like you just don't see that in movies anymore these days.
No,
and it's truly a lost art. I hate myself right now for not remembering, but I don't know who did the effects for the first Gremlins. But I know the legendary Rick Baker did it for the sequel. And, he took what they did in the first movie to the next level. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, again, it's just a fun little creepy movie for Christmas.
And it's funny, I believe that it came out the same day, same week as Ghostbusters in 1984.
Oh, really?
I believe so, if memory serves me correctly, because it was June of 1984. But yeah, the makeup is awesome. I'm not sure if they even had a makeup category at the Academy Awards yet, but if it was, I think it.
I'm not sure if they had. Rick Baker's probably already run 3 of them at this point. So,
yeah.
I mean, the guy has 7.
7 Oscars, huh?
7 Oscars. His last one he got an Oscar for was actually The Wolfman in 2010, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
He won one for Martin Landau as Lugosi and Ed Wood. Men in Black. I mean, the guy, he's an icon. He's just a legend. Mm-hmm. He's so talented. But again, he did the second movie. I'm not too sure who was responsible for the first movie, but nevertheless, they did a great job. Those little
well, this guy named Chris Wallace, Wallace, he designed the effect, the actual Gremlins themselves. Right. So a huge shout out to him and Rick Baker, because I mean, when you think of makeup, Rick Baker is a guy that comes up for discussion. Just like when it comes to film scores, you have John Williams and Ennio Morricone. Those two are kind of
right.
And John Williams has got like 50 of them now, 50 nominations. Mm-hmm. And, Ennio Morricone only had like 5 or 6. But, we'll talk about Ennio Morricone. We'll give him his own show.
Right.
Because you probably remember his horror theme for The Thing.
Yeah.
But anyways, so Gremlins is your pick for your first one. And it just brings back a lot of childhood memories, I'm sure.
It does. And if you ever want to do a New Year's, we can talk about Ghostbusters too. I won't mind that either.
Yeah, even though it wasn't as good, that's for sure.
I love me some Ghostbusters.
The first one I want to talk about is it's not a huge movie. It's called Anna and the Apocalypse. It's I love it. It's a British Scottish Christmas zombie musical.
Say that 3 times.
Yeah, right. And when it first came out, it actually premiered at the Adirondack Film Festival several years back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was like a couple of months before it was actually released theatrically. And I only think the Albany, New York theaters got it in this area. Mm-hmm. But what an interesting little film. I'm going to dive into the plot of this one a little bit because it's not a widely known film. Little Haven, Scotland is where this takes place. Anna is about to finish school, plans to travel for a year before going to university. So it's kind of like a growing up kind of girl finding herself. But it displeases her widower father. Her friends are dealing with their own issues. Her best friend, he's an artist, secretly in love with her. And then there's this budding filmmaker. He's struggling with a class assignment. And this transfer student is trying to get her social justice reporting past the vice principal, typical tyrant kind of principal, you know what I mean? And the movie literally starts off it goes right into a song. And I highly encourage you watch this movie because it's different. It's kind of like Shaun of the Dead. It's like a brand new day. That's the theme of the song. It's a brand new day. It's got a fresh start, and you got all this zombie chaos going in the background. Mm-hmm. You got people falling from buildings. You got zombies chasing after people, and she's just, her and her friend singing a song, dancing around. It's a typical.
Oh, that's fun.
She's in her own little world while chaos is happening all around her.
What more would you want in a musical?
Especially a Christmas zombie musical, because this takes place at Christmas time, too. They're on their Christmas break. So it's a lot of fun. I really don't want to take too much more time explaining the plot, because it's just a fun little film. It doesn't necessarily soar as much as I like. It turns into a run-of-the-mill kind of horror. It's got the horror elements, but it's also got the melodrama. It's got the musical stuff to it. Are you into that? Any of that stuff, Adam?
I'm into some of it. I want to say
I would watch it once.
Yeah,
because you're a fan of the horror genre. You'll appreciate the some of the gore that happens in it. There's this candy cane like Christmas decor that she uses as a weapon.
Yeah, and
a candy cane that she's smashing the zombies' brains in.
And I do watch more than just horror movies. Believe it or not, I know some people don't believe me when I say that, but I'm up for a good musical every once in a while, and zombies and Christmas, why not?
Yeah, it's got the recipe for success. Again, it doesn't soar to the heights that I know I wanted. I didn't really have any expectations going in, but it seemed like it was missing something. Mm-hmm. But again, the music is fun. It's got the 90s pop rock kind of vibe to it.
Oh, cool.
So it's a lot of fun to watch. Worth watching one time at least. So what's next on your list, Adam?
On my list, we're going to go with probably the OG slasher film.
OG?
The OG.
What's that mean? OG?
Original.
Oh,
okay. That's kids lingo for
OG. I'm thinking of OG. You know?
I'm talking about 1974 Black Christmas.
So yeah, the 1974 one. There was the one that came out in the mid 2000s, and there was another one.
Yeah, there's been 2 remakes. Yeah, that are absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I watched the one in the mid 2000s, and from that on, I really had no interest in seeing the original. But you think I should rethink it?
I think you would really enjoy the original. The original is it's a horror movie, but more of a suspense. Basically, it's Christmas time at a sorority house, and you have someone inside the sorority house. Picking the girls off one by one. I mean, like it's really interesting to see what John Carpenter ended up taking from this.
Yeah, because it was 4 years before Halloween.
Yeah,
I want to say, just from you telling me that. So is it somebody dressed up? Is there like a mask?
No, but you get the first person point of view from the killer.
Okay, now what does he use for a weapon? He
uses a bunch of different things. The most iconic kill in the movie is the first one where he kills the girl with a plastic bag, and he leaves her up there in a rocking chair, up in the attic in a rocking chair.
Because there's some giallo elements here, too. The awesome Italian killer horror kind of stuff. A lot. Another thing that it took away from Halloween is like the heavy breathing. But in this movie, he's doing it through the phone. He's basically calling them and harassing them, making weird noises. Because Scream alludes to that movie as well.
And it's just it's a very unique, very off-putting, very unsettling movie. It stars the legendary Margot Kidder, Lois Lane herself, and
this is a year after she did that amazing Brian De Palma thriller Sisters.
Yes.
Literally a year later. But continue.
For my next pick my picks are in no particular order. But it is considered the first slasher movie of its kind. I know Halloween gets the credit for kickstarting the craze, which it deserves.
No, I still disagree with that, Adam, and we'll argue that at some point because several years before all of these movies came out, Psycho came out. That was the first unofficial slasher film.
Okay, first one, I'll give you that, but Halloween started the craze. Halloween showed everybody that you could make money off of this stuff and pump it out like
he
a
didn't
Ford
expect it to be a success though, but it did become a runaway success. But it's interesting. The original title was Silent Night, Evil Night. Mm-hmm. So we might as well lead into.
So my next one, Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Where a guy dresses up as Santa Claus, right?
So again, another wonderful holiday slasher. From our favorite decade of 1980s. This was in 1984.
Yeah.
Silent Night, Deadly Night. Basically, a quick plot summary. You got this guy who's traumatized by seeing the murder of his family on Christmas. Then he's abused through an orphanage. And then as he's older, he becomes the magic over the age of 21. He dresses up as Santa Claus and seeks his revenge.
Gotcha.
It stars. It does have genre legend Leanna Quigley in it, and guys, this is just typical 80s slasher. Don't take it seriously. Have fun with it. It's
because some people say there's because I've never. This is another one I haven't seen. It does have some comedic elements in it.
Oh yeah.
Whereas Black Christmas, really, there's nothing funny in it because it's pretty serious.
Yeah, Black Christmas is like I said, especially when you hear him on the phone harassing the girls and some of the things he says, it's really
it's a low budget horror film in the vein of Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
right?
Where it's pretty realistic, but Silent Night, Deadly Night is more of a
and it was a hit. I mean, I think if
there's 4 sequels, isn't there?
There's 4 sequels, and the original was made for $75,000. And
there's 4 total, 3 sequels.
Yeah. But again, just the original alone, for a budget of $75,000, and then you make over $2 million.
It's a profit.
It's a profit, man. So yes, Silent Night, Deadly Night. Have a little fun this Christmas, and
it's like 40 years old now. I think it came out in 83.
84, I think.
83, 84.
Well, I mean, it's going to be whether it's it's either 41
we're calling
or
40. It 40 years old. It's close enough. It's close enough. So the second one on my list, and this is more of like childhood nostalgia, A Christmas Carol. Now I've seen, except for Albert Finney's Scrooge, which I think it's more of a musical. I've seen pretty much every concoction of A Christmas Carol. I've read the book thousands of times, and it's horrifying in a sense because, well, I was 5 years old, 4 or 5 when I saw it, because the George C. Scott version is the one that lingers in my head, and it's funny because all the other ones that I've seen have had a major theatrical release. I give a shout out to Reginald Owen, Alistair Sim. They did the 1935 and 1951 films respectively. And there was even one where Alec Guinness plays the ghost of Jacob Marley. I think
wow.
That might have been the Albert Finney version, but again, there's so many. He did one that was just called Scrooge, and I think it was late 60s, early 70s. But the George C. Scott one sticks in my head. It's a made-for-TV movie. Not only did you have George C. Scott in there, you have David Warner, who plays Bob Cratchit. Frank Finlay makes quite the impression as Jacob Marley, and it's the score. It was the ambiance of the film that really stood out. When you're a 4-year-old watching this, it sticks in your mind, especially the ghosts of Christmas yet to come. It makes obviously the Ghost of Christmas Future doesn't talk,
right?
But there's a sound effect that plays. It makes it kind of an eerie sound, and I had nightmares. I was only 4, and it's the only film that really, I wouldn't say nightmares, but it's the only one that really. There was one time I woke up in a cold sweat because I had the Ghost of Christmas Future in my mind.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, again, I was 4 years old.
I mean, that's scary.
Yeah, the movie was scary. Have you seen this TV version with George C. Scott?
Yes. Yep.
And Edward Woodward, who is the Wicker Man,
right,
plays the Ghost of Christmas Present.
Oh, that's cool.
So I mean, you have a bunch of cult film icons in there. You might as well say George C. Scott is, because The Changeling and a few other horror movies he made. So
yeah, I mean, I've always liked the Patrick Stewart version.
Yeah,
I mean, they're
not bad. Michael Caine also famously played him.
Yep.
That's one a lot of people.
But the George C. Scott one is just iconic.
Yeah,
it's a staple.
All right.
Sure.
And then the way the other ones say humbug, he just says bah humbug. I think one time he just says bah like that. But he was a great actor, and that one for some reason it just has always stood out in my mind. What's next for you? I mean, you've done 3, but go ahead with your 4th.
So my 4th, I'm going to go with Krampus.
Krampus. Really wanted to like it.
You really want? I see. I really liked it.
I'm in the minority. Go ahead.
Yeah. Again, like Silent Night, Deadly Night, and Gremlins. This is just one of those movies that you got to take tongue in cheekly. You're watching this movie just to have fun. You're not trying to really get much of a message out of it. But it's really cool. Obviously, it plays off the story of a little boy who is not entirely happy with the way things are going on with his family.
Yeah.
His German grandmother still insists that he writes to Santa. His family comes over and they find the letter before he can get it sent out to Santa, and kind of embarrass him during a family dinner about it. And he basically takes his wish back, which summons the almighty Krampus, evil Santa, and then all hell breaks loose from there. And again, you got the one guy having an all-out war in the kitchen with Gingerbread Man. Krampus himself and his elves are just super, super creepy. It's just a really interesting, goofy, fun horror movie. I actually had the privilege in 2016. I got to go to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios Orlando, Florida, and they had the Krampus haunted house. And I actually appreciated the movie more after going through the haunted house. I mean, because they do the haunted house, it's scene for scene the movie, but I mean, just it was fun to be able to see the detail in the haunted house and then go back and watch the movie and find all the little details in the movies that they included in the haunted house. I mean, it's October in Orlando, Florida, and you're in this haunted house and it's freezing and they're making it snow on you. It was such a cool atmosphere, and it just made me appreciate the movie even more. So, again, you like a little creepy in your holiday, you like a little fun in your holiday.
Yeah, because it's a comedy too.
It's a horror comedy.
Yeah, I didn't think the horror comedy balance was 100% successful. That's
yeah. I mean, like there's some things that make you chuckle. There, you got the obnoxious aunt who seems to play I can't remember the actress's name off the top of my head at the moment.
Does Toni Collette plays the mom, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and she's a phenomenal actress.
Absolutely,
I really like her.
Yeah, no,
that was the main reason I wanted to see it, because I'm a huge fan of hers.
Yeah, I didn't think the acting from all angles were all that bad.
No, the acting is not what I fault. I think it wasn't. The execution wasn't satisfying to my tastes.
Right.
Again, I'm in the minority. The movie was very successful. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like a huge budget, but it was a huge success when it came out, and people love it. And people, I want to say people like yourselves, because you are the diehard horror fan. It kind of tickled a lot of your fancies. It just wasn't 100% on my end. It's just the execution seemed a little off.
Right.
But that's just me.
No, I mean, again, I recommend Krampus to anybody who's, done seeing a Rudolph for the 1,000th time and want to watch something a little bit more fun, a little bit more adult. But nothing wrong with Rudolph, though.
No,
nothing wrong with Rudolph.
I grew up with Rudolph.
So did
too.
I.
So, so my next pick, again, the picks that I made, other than Anna and the Apocalypse, are not your typical what you would think of horror. Horror is something different for me. Horror is something that I think is like disturbing,
right?
And it stays with you, and it's just alarming. It's shocking. I mean, The Wicker Man is like my so-called favorite, one of my favorite horror films of all time. Psycho. Yeah. There's nothing funny about it. And the reason I picked Fanny and Alexander, 1982 Swedish film by Ingmar Bergman. First off, it is a Christmas movie. It's a highly lauded film. It's considered an art house piece. It won several Academy Awards, a lot of the technical stuff. The whole first sequence. Now, there are two cuts of the film. I'm going to warn you, Adam. Yep. If you ever want to watch it, you got to go with a 5.5 hour cut. Now, I know it sounds daunting, but it's split up into episodes because he filmed it for TV. He did take almost 3 hours of it and make it into a theatrical release a year later. So that version came out in 1983, but this TV version came out in 1982. And that's the one I watched the theatrical cut once, and it's still amazing on its own. I mean, you can't really say there's like an awful Ingmar Bergman film. Right. There are lesser Ingmar Bergman films, but the 5.5 hour cut you got to go with, because there's this whole, it's over an hour long of them, the family Christmas tradition, and it's just so amazing to see this family happy. They're dancing around. They're singing these traditional Swedish hymns and everything like that. And it's a family Christmas. I mean, it's a huge family.
Right.
It's a huge family, and they're all enjoying themselves. But that's short-lived because right afterwards, just in the opening sequence alone, there's an epilogue where Alexander is a very imaginative boy because it's told from his perspective and his sister, hence Fanny and Alexander.
Right.
And Alexander, the whole beginning sequence, it's like he falls asleep, has a nap, and you have this eerie kind of glockenspiel score playing, and it pans around the really nice house, the amazing decor. It won the Academy Award for set design because Bergman really knew how to use a set. But you see the figure of the Grim Reaper, and it's it sticks in your mind. It's kind of eerie. It kind of just shows up, and there's a statue that moves, and he sees this in a vision. So you know for the fact, the Grim Reaper, you see it, death is looming. And his father does die from a stroke. And you see the agonizing suffering of the father dying, the agonizing effect of the mom dealing with it. But the family gets separated because she falls in love with a priest. I'm kind of summarizing the movie really quick so I can prove that this is indeed got a lot of horror aspects to it.
Sure.
The bishop is very abusive. He's constantly hitting Alexander, grabbing him. He's just very, very evil for a bishop. And it goes with Ingmar Bergman's whole theme of, religion, life, death, family. Those are his main themes in his movies. And there's a sister who's got a debilitating illness, and it's very graphic with that. His mom gets married to the bishop, and that causes a lot of problems. He kind of like traps them. They're like prisoners in his house. So again, she finally breaks free, but the way she does it, she sets the whole place on fire and they all burn alive, and it shows it.
Oh, wow.
Shows some of the burning. She doesn't set the match. His diseased sister accidentally knocks over the lamp and the candle sets the whole place on fire. But she had the option to rescue them, but she just chose to get the hell out of there. And it just shows them burning. But yeah, there's a scene with marionettes when Alexander, him and his sister are rescued by a friend of the family. The friend of the family's son is very, I wouldn't say slow, but he's got some mental things.
Okay.
He's got these marionettes, and there's a whole sequence where the marionettes are kind of grabbing him, and he sees visions of the spirit of his father, and the movie ends with him being followed by the priest after he's dead, and the priest grabs him, and that's how the movie ends. So to me, that sticks with you. That is horrifying. All of those things that the kid had to deal with, the ghostly visions, seeing death, there's a lot of horror elements with Fanny and Alexander.
Interesting.
Yes, it's good. Again,
I definitely see the horror elements you're talking about.
It's not technically a horror movie.
Yeah.
It's kind of a Christmas film because of the whole memorable scene at Christmas time. I highly recommend it, Adam. Again, the 5.5 hour version is the way to go, but it's split into episodes. There's like 4 episodes. So it makes the consuming a little bit better. And to be honest, these filmmakers, when they did these little 10-hour things, 5.5 hour things, 15 hours in some cases, again, they were all split into episodes. And that's the way the directors wanted you to consume it.
Wow.
The next one, a lot of people have been saying, especially in the last 3 or 4 years on the internet, gotta love the internet, right? Social media.
Everything is correct on the internet.
Yeah, everything is correct.
Everything.
And, I never thought of it this way, but Eyes Wide Shut is now considered an alternative Christmas movie.
Really?
Because it takes place during the holidays. The whole setting.
Huh.
You see Christmas trees, you see presents, and the final scene of the movie is them doing some Christmas shopping.
Okay, now this is hotly debated like Die Hard?
Not quite,
because this a new Die Hard debate?
Because, Die Hard was a huge box office smash.
Yeah.
Eyes Wide Shut, not so much.
That movie is it a Christmas movie? Obviously, it's the greatest Christmas movie of all time, Die Hard. But, I mean, some people say no.
The same argument could be said for It's a Wonderful Life, because that's not technically a Christmas movie either.
Right.
Again, there are some of the key scenes. If we're going to say that, then Goodfellas is a Christmas movie, because the big heist and the big climax of the movie takes place at Christmas time.
Listen, nowhere in Goodfellas and It's a Wonderful Life is a bad guy with blood on him that says, now I have a machine gun, ho, ho, ho.
No.
It's a Christmas movie.
The gangster buys a Cadillac for his mom for Christmas.
Yeah.
De Niro's like, what are you doing? I told you not to buy anything. But again, we're getting off the Christmas horror. Eyes Wide Shut, Christmas is kind of an atmosphere. It's the time of year.
Right.
People don't go around saying, Merry Christmas or ho, ho, ho.
Yeah.
But it's the time of the season. It takes place at Christmas time. And the reason why I say it's a horror film is because it's pretty disturbing. Him and his wife get high with marijuana, and she reveals to him that she had a sexual fantasy about somebody else. She didn't literally cheat on him, but he becomes so insecure. So he takes house calls, goes out to this patient who really has a crush on him. She's about ready to leave her fiance, and then his wife calls him and kind of snaps him out of it. Every time he's about ready to cross the line, he meets up with a prostitute, his wife calls him. So it kind of snaps him out of it. But it's kind of a psychosexual odyssey about this guy really upset. And for some reason, he wants to get revenge because his wife, she was having sex in her dream, but she wasn't like really doing that in real life. It raises a lot of questions. It's not a recipe for box office success because it was a failure when it came out. They wanted to cut the movie. Tom Cruise stepped in because his company produced it. And he's like, no, you're not doing that. And he had enough clout where they couldn't do anything about that. But the movie took like a couple years. Harvey Keitel was attached to it. And finally, it was kind of you're fired. He's like, I want to quit anyways. It was a disaster because he's noted for taking take after take. And Harvey Keitel's like, I walked through the door several different ways. Can we just move on now? And they had differences of agreement. But the reason it's a horror movie, because all that stuff I was telling you doesn't sound like a horror movie. Mm-hmm. It's just his insecurity. But he meets up with an old friend who's playing piano, who's famously played by another filmmaker, Todd Field, and he tells him about a secret place where he's going to, and it gives him the address, and he goes out there, and that's where it just like it takes a plot twist that no one could see coming. And that's, it's based on a novel, but again, with Kubrick adapting it, probably nothing like the novel. But it just takes a huge turn, and he had to walk in with a mask and dress up as a costume. It was like a ball of some kind, a masked ball. So he comes in, it seems like, everyone's dressed in, masks, and they're all in costume. And then he's escorted around, and it's some sort of cult, an occult with group orgies. And he's witnessing this, and he's just walking around, and there's a few people that he meets up with someone who takes him aside. What are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. And it was a patient that he helped secretly. Sidney Pollack is in the movie, another brilliant filmmaker. And he helped her out with a drug overdose, and she's trying to like, you got to get out of here. And then the gentleman's like, the taxi that you wanted or that brought you here needs to see you urgently. And he's brought into this secret room, and you've got this eerie piano music playing, and it's very frightening. You don't know what's going to happen. It's very suspenseful. It's very tense. Mm-hmm. And the guy who's the head of the cult asks him to remove his mask, and he has to remove his mask for everyone to see. And then he asks him to remove his clothes. So it's a very disturbing scene. And again, it doesn't ever show anything, mm-hmm. but what you do, it's very atmospheric. The music, the tension. No one can do that better than Kubrick. So the woman who tried to save him, she said, take me instead, take me. And they escort her somewhere. And then it's either a day or two later, he sees that she had died of a drug overdose. Wow. So it turns into a murder mystery. All of a sudden, Tom Cruise looking to cheat on his spouse to try to make him feel better about himself. He's being very selfish this whole time, kind of just forgetting about his work, his family. But then it turns into a murder mystery, but he wants to keep seeking out what's going on. So during the day, he takes his own car, drives up there, and a mysterious old man appears with a note and just said, "You've been warned a second time." That's all it said. We hope this is sufficient and you heed our warning. And he's constantly being followed around. It's just very, very, it sticks with you. To me, that is, the stuff in Fanny and Alexander, the stuff in Eyes Wide Shut is more terrifying in a sense than anything you'll ever see in a horror film. That's just me, though.
So, moral of the story, kids, stay away from the marijuana.
Yeah.
Because smoking the reefer will lead to infidelity, sex cults, murder, and stalking.
Yeah. but yeah, at the end, he has to bring his costume back to the person he rented it out from, which is a whole bizarre sequence there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that the mask is lying on his side of the bed at the end, and it's like Nicole Kidman put it there, like, what the hell's, she's basically saying, what the hell are you doing? What the hell is going on here? And so he breaks down, and there's that notorious line that the movie ends on, and I'm not going to give it away if you haven't seen it.
All righty.
Well, I mean, it takes place during Christmas. It does have some horror elements, does it not?
Yeah, it does.
Would you agree?
That's a cheerful. That's a cheerful
Yeah,
Christmas movie.
yeah.
You know,
Hey, kids.
that puts us in the Christmas spirit right
Yeah,
there.
I know. Well, it does take place at Christmas time, and people, I didn't really even think about it being a Christmas movie, but again, when you go online, social media, it's in conversations, and it becomes a trending thing.
Yeah.
So you've seen the movie, though. Do you agree?
Long time ago. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's definitely got a suspenseful, creepy aspect to it. I would I call it a horror movie? I mean, like, again, I see the tropes there. I don't know if Tom Cruise would want to call it a horror movie. I don't know if Nicole Kidman would. But I mean, again, it's there. It's there for sure. And again,
I see horror movie a little differently than a lot of people do.
Right. Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
nothing wrong with that at all. Which is what makes doing this show fun, is getting the different perspectives.
Right.
You know.
Right. So you've talked about 4.
Yeah.
What is your 4th?
Well, I've given 4.
Oh, so you've given 4. Your 5th.
Yeah.
I was never a math student.
It's
all
right.
A good one. So
all right. So actually, my 5th movie is actually one I feel very strongly about, because on a past podcast I interviewed the man who directed this movie, and he was in the middle of promoting it, and I watched it, and I thought it was excellent. That movie is called Secret Santa.
Secret Santa, huh?
By and it was produced by an independent company called Skeleton Crew.
Yep.
Which is founded by its director and his wife, and the director is, for all you Friday the 13th super freaks out there, the one and only Adam Marcus, the writer and director of Jason Goes to Hell.
Now, when you interviewed him, did you talk about Secret Santa?
We did. Yes, we actually had a 4-hour conversation. It was supposed to be and I hope to get him on this show soon. I'm still connected to him. I'm still friends with him on social media. Yep. He's a fascinating, fun guy to talk to. But yes, we were only expecting to go about an hour with him. We went 4. We had to cut so we divided the show up into 2. Mm-hmm. And in the second half of the show, we do talk about the first half is all the backstory of Jason Goes to Hell. The second half is what he did after Jason Goes to Hell, and then we get into a lot of Secret Santa.
That was the last Jason Friday the 13th movie I watched, by the way, was that one.
Oh, so you didn't watch Jason X?
No.
No, you didn't watch Freddy vs. Jason?
No.
Come on, Freddy vs. Jason is fun. You gotta.
I may try to watch it at some point, but it's.
Either way, I'll get you there. But no, Secret Santa it's really a gem of an independent movie. Mm-hmm. It falls in the horror comedy category. It's really intense. It's really the basic backstory is you have this dysfunctional family. They get together for Christmas, and basically one of the members of the family enacts their revenge by poisoning certain gifts and certain foods. Nice. So there's like a plague going on in this house. People are
plague.
Kind of. So people are like dying, one by one, and it's kind of like a who did it type movie.
So it's got a little bit of the mystery element to it, like
Yes.
like an old fashioned Hammer film,
Right.
With that aspect of
Yep,
it.
exactly. And yeah, it stars actress Deborah Sullivan, who is Adam Marcus's wife.
Okay.
She's a fantastic actress, and it was different.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
When did this? So it came out after Freddy versus.
This came
after
out in
Friday
2018.
2018. So yeah, multiple decades later after Jason.
Yeah, and he's done a lot of movies.
Yeah,
and a lot.
That's
of
the one
TV,
he's most noted for.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's his biggest success. You know, yeah, I'm not going to talk about my old show a lot on this show because you know, if we can get him on the show, I want him to tell you his story.
Right.
But I mean, like the Disney movie, My Boyfriend's Back. You remember that? From
vaguely remember that.
Yeah, he wrote that, or he wrote the first draft of that. I mean, so the guy's done a lot. And he's a super nice guy, super talented guy. And Secret Santa, for those of you guys who like the more independent horror movies, a little bit more on the gory side, you know, you like that suspense thriller type aspect, a little bit of laughter in it, a little bit of absurdity. Secret Santa is really a fantastic movie to check out.
Kind of like how Damien Leone's been handling things.
A little bit, yeah. So yes, Secret Santa by
Secret
Adam Marcus. Check it out. And again, he produced this through his own Skeleton Crew company, guys. You know, and you know, I know a lot, especially in the horror genre. There's a lot of belly aching about the studio system and stuff like that.
There's a lot.
Support these local guys, these independent guys, because they can put out some really great stuff like Terrifier.
Yeah, the first Terrifier, definitely. Yeah.
You know, so I mean, support these dudes.
Right. The final one I'm going to talk about is more of a New Year's Eve kind of thing.
All right.
It's a movie that's 102 years old.
Okay.
It's called The Phantom Carriage. Have you ever heard of it, Adam? I hope you've at least heard of it.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Well, basically, it's, if you translate it in Swedish, it literally means the wagoner, okay? It's based on a novel in 1912 called It's based on the 1912 novel Thy Soul Shall Bear Witness. Now, in the film, the director of the film also stars in it as well. He plays a drunkard who on the night of New Year's Eve is compelled by the ghostly driver of Death's carriage to reflect on his past mistakes. And alongside him, you know, you've got a who's who of Swedish cinema. And it was literally released in Scandinavia on New Year's Day, 1921, which is really cool. Now, I guess it was re-edited in the United States under the title The Stroke of Midnight. You know, had to give it more of a horror vibe,
Right.
obviously. The cool thing is what he was able to do with the camera. I mean, what he was able to do with the camera. His name is Victor Sjöström, okay? And he had this innovative narrative structure. Again, we see flashbacks all the time. Mm-hmm. And in 20 years later, Orson Welles really had a lot of fun with flashbacks with Citizen Kane.
Right.
But this film, the narrative structure with flashbacks within flashbacks was quite new at the time. Mm-hmm. And obviously it became a huge, Ingmar Bergman watched this movie and was just like, wow, he literally had Victor Sjöström star in a couple of his movies. So I guess you can't just call it a horror movie. Just like The Wicker Man, it's got several different genres in there.
Yeah,
you could call it a morality story, reflecting on one's own past. You've got the melodrama aspect to it, a fantasy film, a horror film. You know, I call it a horror film mainly because of the atmosphere, and it's just such a. You look at this film, you can see where all of these other famous horror movies got their stuff from.
Right.
Just the whole thing, flashback within a flashback.
Yeah.
It wasn't done. It wasn't done at that time.
Definitely, yeah.
It was such a unique structure. So I don't really want to get into the plot too much, but there's a lot of, family issues, reflecting on one's past, but not living in the past. That's like, you don't want to live in the past. How are you going to better yourself? There's hope at the end of this movie. So, I mean, unlike two of the movies, I mean, because Fanny and Alexander, yes, there's a lot of hope, a lot of love, a lot of family. It ends on let's quote WTF kind of thing, with the spirit of the priest haunting him. The bishop is haunting him.
Huh.
This one, there is more hope at the end. Again, I don't want to give away the plot too much, but yes, I mean, basically it's one person is picked to ride with death on New Year's Eve, and he has to reflect on all of his past mistakes. It's such an interesting concept. I just haven't seen anything like it, and have you ever seen anything like that for what I just described?
No, not really, but listening to you, family issues seem to be an underlining theme with all of these movies.
Well, I mean, alcoholism is a big problem, and he caused a lot of destruction in his household.
Right.
The movie reflects that. And again, this isn't Hollywood. This is over in Sweden, Scandinavian territory, where these kind of issues were more not like boxed in, not seen. Sure. There was a lot of interesting Hollywood pre-code stuff, but it's laid out there in such a way. I mean, you literally see him like breaking down a door, kind of like the way Jack Nicholson did in The Shining. I mean, it's disturbing. Yeah, it really is. To see something like that in 1921, I can only imagine how audiences reacted. Had they seen anything like this before? The unfortunate thing with a lot of silent movies, like over half of them have been destroyed.
Right.
Again, they're used to help out with the war efforts, and they just, the film is done. They didn't think about video or home video. Yeah. It wasn't even thought of back in the silent
archiving, era. And film doesn't last forever. It deteriorates over time, and then, as I've said many times about Universal, the convenient fire.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
But a lot of it was used for war efforts. They use it for shoes, for boots, because film makes sturdy, footwear, apparently. Some of the material in the film.
Recycling it, yeah.
But it's such a great thing that the Criterion Collection was able to put their minds together to restore this masterpiece. And I'm sure because of Ingmar Bergman being such a huge fan of the film, that had a lot to do with it over the years. Because, I mean, let's face it, Ingmar Bergman was like almost 90 when he passed. So he lived to be in the almost mid-2000s.
Oh, wow.
And he was making movies up to 2 years prior to his death.
God bless him.
And Victor, you got to really see that. If you're a fan of not only horror movies, but you like amazing filmmaking, I mean, it just doesn't get much better than The Phantom Carriage. Again, when you watch it, the movie's 102 years old, and what Victor Swordstrom was able to do with the camera, it just blows your mind. It blew my mind anyways, because I'm used to, computer does it for you. Yes, we were blessed to be brought up with Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg, Brian De Palma, who relied more on camera techniques, old-fashioned Hollywood magic. Well, not so much Steven Spielberg anymore, unfortunately, but because he's into the computer stuff now, unfortunately. But, they use old-fashioned movie magic. But to me, it's just mind-blowing, these guys like Victor Swordstrom. You had Fritz Lang, who did Metropolis. You had Abel Gance, the French filmmaker. These guys just puts all today's movies to shame, what he was able to do with a camera alone.
Right.
It's like, man, what masters. Again, I'm kind of going on and on and on and on and on. So that was my choice, The Phantom Carriage. I also chose Anna and the Apocalypse, Eyes Wide Shut, and I also chose the 1984 Christmas Carol. Those are my favorite, the movies that I think of when it comes to alternative Christmas movies, but also elements of horror in there as well.
Just to recap my list for you, I hit you guys with Gremlins, Secret Santa, Black Christmas, Silent Night, Deadly Night, and Krampus.
Yeah, feel free to comment.
Yes, tell us what your favorite is. If
you're a diehard horror fan, you probably will agree with Adam more, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on Fanny and Alexander, Eyes Wide Shut being Christmas movies or Christmas horror movies, because to me, there's a lot of horror elements. And yes, Christmas isn't used in. Yeah, Merry Christmas is not used really in Eyes Wide Shut at all. Not a lot of merriness in that movie.
No.
But it takes place at Christmas time, and there's been a debate on should it be considered a Christmas movie. And someone started a thread about it being a horror movie as well. Mm-hmm. So that's why I chose those movies.
Yeah, and if we miss something that you think is a horror-themed Christmas movie in that nature, let us know.
Yeah.
Enlighten us.
Merry Christmas and have a spooky, fun time this holiday season.
Stay safe. Merry Christmas.
We'll see you next time on Scared for Reals.